full-time MMA?
MMA.
Nothing
Yeah.
else?
My life, man, yeah.
Hey, let's get it. Go.
What up?
What up, man? Can you hear me pretty good?
Yeah, yeah, hear you good.
Alright, bet that's what's up. Alright, we're recording, I'm pretty sure. That's what it's saying. So fucking let's get it. And since we're not doing the video chat, I'm gonna go ahead and get this going. But so what's up, man? What's up?
Nothing much, man.
Let everybody know who you are, of course, first of all, to the full-time family.
Barry Walters, man, been following this man since he was quick hits to quick picks.
Quick hits too.
To not full time. Yeah, quick hits too. To quick picks and to not full time MMA. And now we here, man.
We're fucking here, man. Let's go. So, I know you said you wanted to talk about UFC 216 and all, so is there anything specifically about UFC 216 to get it started off?
Yeah, man. What are you thinking about that Demetrius Johnson Ray Borg fight, man? I wasn't that entertained by it. You know, he won by the arm bar, but personally,
Yeah,
man, I wasn't impressed, man.
To me, Ray, in my opinion, Ray Borg probably shouldn't have been in the fight. You know what I'm saying? He was just coming off of 2 decisions, 2 wins. Before that, he had like 2 losses. He wasn't like finishing guys. So the fact that he was even in there was kind of like, you know, I just expected Demetrius Johnson to kind of run through him. But really what topped it off was the finish. I mean, that kind of, I don't even remember kind of how the fight went, just because all of, you know, the talk about the submission after the fight and, you know, just everything about that submission kind of, you know, so the submission, if anything, probably delivered enough for the whole fight. But yeah, I don't even really remember too much about how the fight went. I mean, but I know I didn't really feel like Ray Borg probably should have been in there versus Demetrius anyway, so.
Yeah, man, like, the man Demetrius, you know, he's a good fighter, you know, I respect him, but I just don't think that his level of competition is where it should be, because for a guy that's been competing, I think he was in WEC.
Yep.
I think he was, yeah. So, and then 135, and then his run right now is similar to Ronda Rousey's when she had her 6 straight title defenses, undefeated, going back to whatever organization she was, Strikeforce.
Okay,
And
so
you know, and
I just want to ask you real quick. So do you think the same thing about Ronda Rousey's run? Do you think it was kind of like overrated, like the same way you kind of feel like about Demetrius's?
yeah, I think it's definitely overrated, because now that women's MMA has caught up to the skill level that Rousey's her judo was and her jiu-jitsu now, she's not as good as she once was. And honestly, Ronda Rousey only had a ground game. And I blame her coach, Edmond, because for a woman that's competing in the Olympics in judo, she already had a grappling background already. He didn't improve her, not one bit.
Yeah, he needed to, instead of working with her himself, like bring in, you know how like GSP's working with Freddie Roach right now, like bring in a fucking boxing coach, because she's got the grappling, so let's get them hands up there.
And she had the grappling before she even met him. That's the part.
So really, what did he do? I don't know. What did he even do really then?
Yeah, you know, you got Travis Brown getting KO'd every fight.
And then, I mean, just from what I've heard, I don't know all of them off the top of my head, but the rest of his fighters aren't really, you know, top notch either as far as like contenders. You know what I'm saying? Like, he doesn't really have any other fighters aside from Ronda Rousey and Travis Brown that I can think of off the top of my head that he's, you know, responsible for their success.
True, man. Hey, head movement.
Head movement. No, right now.
Yeah, man. That was crazy, man.
Well, I gotta ask one more thing about that. Okay, so you say that about Ronda Rousey and Demetrius Johnson. What about Joanna? Because to me, Demetrius Johnson's competition has probably been tougher than Joanna's, right? I mean, she's at a smaller division. I mean, one thing you can say is it's easier to find women at that division than, I guess, men at 125. But if you look at Joanna's competition, the women she's fought, what do they say about Demetrius Johnson? He hasn't fought any former champions, and you know, none of the guys he fought have ever been pound for pound top guys. Well, so you can say the same thing about Joanna. She's beat like Rose, Claudia, Jessica Andrade. Well, she hasn't beat Rose yet. But, you know, the girls that she's beat, none of them have been champions. So, I mean, you could kind of use that same argument about Joanna, Demetrius, and Ronda Rousey if you go that way. So, do you feel the same way about Joanna, or is it a little different?
To me, it's a little different. You know, I think with Joanna, I think when she fights, I see more of a equal talent there to say, because Joanna, she didn't compete at a former weight before that I know of. The same way that
Muay Thai,
Demetrius,
she might have been at 125, but I think it was Muay Thai though. So
yeah, but I'm not particularly, you know, good in the Muay Thai department, but I think that's just one practice of fighting.
Yeah.
So Demetrius,
I mean,
like,
it's
Demetrius,
kind of like kickboxing. It's not just like it's like striking, if I'm not mistaken. You know, with the Muay Thai clinches and shit. So
yeah.
I mean, it's not really grappling or submissions and shit. But yeah, I see what you're saying.
And Demetrius been doing grappling, training with his coach since who knows when, since WEC to UFC. He just has a longer time in the company fighting better talent than what he's fighting now. The last 11 guys he's beaten, they don't rank nowhere near Dominic Cruz.
Man, and I feel like some people are asleep on Joseph Benavidez and John Dodson. Henry Cejudo's even coming along. But how do you feel about people always laugh when I say Benavidez. Joseph Benavidez. How do you feel about Benavidez and John Dodson?
Well, John Dodson, I think he's okay. I don't think he's ever gonna do anything at 135, so that'll kind of put a dent in his armor. Nah, definitely not. I just don't think he has the explosiveness, the size. I don't think he has the talent to compete with Dillashaw, even though he beat him once before, even though that was a long time ago. I think now he wouldn't stand nowhere near Dillashaw as far as
I don't know why I like John Dodson, man. I like John Dodson. And his last fight versus John Lineker, I mean, it's not like he just got smoked. I mean, it was kind of a close, you know, it was an arguable decision. I mean, I like John Dodson, and he's also said he's willing to go up to 145, 135, down to 125. I mean, and he did knock out TJ Dillashaw. He did say it's a long time ago, but I don't know. I like John Dodson. I think his next fight is versus Marlon Moraes, if I'm not mistaken. Well, I think that'll be a fun fight. But so what about Benavidez?
I haven't really seen him fight too much. I've seen the fight he had against Cejudo.
Bro, he's like 25 and like 2, like on his record. The only person he's like lost to, or the only people he have lost to, is like Demetrius Johnson and Dominic Cruz. Everyone else he's beaten. It's a lot of people. But yeah, that Henry Cejudo fight, I think I had Cejudo. Fight. Yeah, I had Cejudo winning that fight, but didn't they raise Benavidez's hand, if I'm not mistaken?
Yep, they did. I don't know
have Cejudo
why.
winning that fight. And think about this: if they raised Cejudo's hand in that fight, and then he did what he did to he just knock out
Wilson Hayes.
So they raised his hand versus versus Benavidez. Then he knocks out Wilson Hayes. Man, Henry Cejudo ain't too much of a joke either. But then, so what do you think about Cejudo?
Oh yeah, I think he has good talent. I think he's very adaptable because I've seen him come out in different ways, do different things. Mm-hmm.
And now you starting to work with the boxing coach. Whew. And you know, he's already got the wrestling now, like we were talking about with Ronda Rousey. Now start working on those hands, and Henry Cejudo, man, he's a motherfucking, he's a beast down there at flyweight. And you know, maybe the flyweight division is just starting to come along. And I mean, until somebody beats Demetrius Johnson, there's not going to be another champion of the division. But so what if Cody Garbrandt, the winner of Cody Garbrandt, TJ Dillashaw, comes down and DJ beats them at 125? Does that change your perception?
Oh yeah, definitely. If DJ goes up to 135 or they come down to 125, the winner or loser of Dillashaw versus Garbrandt, the winner or loser, whether they fight Demetrius Johnson next or not, if Demetrius ends up beating one of those guys, even if he rematches Dominic,
that's a good point. The winner or loser, because maybe the winner wants to fight Jimmy Rivera, Dominic Cruz, or something. But yeah, the loser can still go down because both of them can make 125. But man, the thing about Demi, man, he's just so small. You know, he could probably make 115 pounds if there was a men's division. I know that sounds stupid, 115 pound men's division, but he's a small dude. So the fact that he isn't successful at 135 pounds, I don't know if that's how much we can hold that against him. I mean, because when you watch the fight versus Dominic Cruz, he was just way bigger than him. Like, it was kind of like, you know, he didn't really just have a chance in that fight. Now, I don't know if it'd be different. I don't know if he could bulk and, like, he would have to, like, make the permanent jump to bantamweight and, like, bulk up, actually, and start fighting up there. Maybe that'd be dope. But, yeah, I mean, I think it'll be, a lot of that will be answered if once he fights TJ Dillashaw or Cody Garbrandt, or maybe even Henry Cejudo again. I mean, Henry Cejudo's fighting Sergio Ooh, no, he just fucking had to jump out of them like California wildfires and might have broke his ankle. I don't know if that fight...
No. The fight's still on.
Okay. Well, damn, I wonder how that's going to affect him. I don't know exactly when that fight is, but I know it's not at least for another month, because the next fucking 3 weeks are already fucking UFC 217, Derek Brunson versus Machida, and then you also got Cowboy versus Till, so it's not for a good while. So yeah, hopefully it didn't mess his ankle up too much. The first report I seen said the fight was off, he broke his ankle, but that was probably just some clickbait shit, because I did also see the article that said the fight's still on, I believe. So I didn't even have time to report on that shit, but yeah, fuck it, we're talking about it here.
Yeah, man. So, but if he beats Sergio Pettis or Cejudo again, I'll give him more respect, but I just don't think the talent level. Come on, man. He should, like you said, he shouldn't have been fighting Ray Borg.
And see, the thing about that, a lot of people get that mistaken. You know, it's not like he just went through like all the list of flyweights and said, okay, I want to defend against Ray Borg next. Whenever the UFC brought him Ray Borg, he said, why not Sergio Pettis? He's got the Pettis name, and I don't understand why it's Ray Borg. And they were like, no, it's going to be Ray Borg. So the UFC gave him Ray Borg in the beginning. And then the UFC tried to take it back and give him Dillashaw. And he was like, hold on, I wanted Pettis, and you guys gave me Ray Borg. So now that you guys gave me Ray Borg, don't try and give me someone else. I want Ray Borg now. You told me I had to fight Ray Borg. So it's not like he originally picked Ray Borg. That was the UFC's idea. He thought Pettis too. But once they told him Ray Borg, he was like, fuck it, okay, I'm fighting Ray Borg. Now, that's when it started looking like he was ducking TJ Dillashaw, because you guys said Ray Borg, but a lot of people kind of forget the part that Ray Borg was the UFC's idea. So, I mean, I agree. I don't know why Ray Borg was in there, but it was not Demetrius Johnson's idea, his original idea to fight Ray Borg. Sergio Pettis, he looked good in his fight versus Brandon Moreno, but even before that, he had a better case to fight Demetrius Johnson than Ray Borg. He was on like a 4-fight winning streak before the Brandon Moreno win. So now he's going to be fighting Henry Cejudo. So what do you think about Sergio Pettis? I think I'm a bigger fan of Sergio Pettis than a lot of people. A lot of people aren't really high on him for some reason, but he's definitely on my radar.
Yeah, he's definitely an all-around good fighter. I seen that fight he had with Moreno. He looked good, man. The way he defended the submission when Moreno had his back. He's a good fighter. He's an all-around fighter. I think he'll be DJ's toughest fight at 125 whenever the fight happens. Because I'm not sure if he'll beat Cejudo, because Cejudo's so adaptable, man. I've seen different looks from Cejudo, and his wrestling is top notch. But I don't know, man. Probably say Sergio Pettis beats him because he won't be as stiff in there as like Wilson Hayes was. Wilson Hayes is stiff. Okay. So I'll give it to Sergio Pettis. He's coming in hot right now. He has good composure because Moreno had his back for the whole first or second round, and Sergio Pettis defended it well all round. He literally had his back all round. And I was at a bar watching, man, and when he had his back, I was like, okay, this fight's over. Because usually in UFC, when you get your back taken, it's over with.
And Moreno's grappling already. He's been, shocking everybody with it.
So I was like, okay, this fight's over with. It's only a matter of time before he puts him in a rear naked choke. And then, to watch Sergio Pettis defend it and not quit, I immediately went into thinking about, what's his name? Sage Northcutt. That's what I went thinking about after watching Sergio Pettis defend it for so long. I'm thinking because when Mickey Gall had him, he didn't try to defend it. He just immediately gave up. Okay, you got it. When Mickey Gall fought Sage Northcutt. Yeah. So so to see how Sergio Pettis hung in there, took a couple punches, fought off the arms and all that, it was textbook way to defend a rear naked choke from the back. Yeah. I give him respect.
Yeah, it was definitely dope to see. So, so anything before we get off of UFC 216? What do you think about Tony Ferguson and Kevin Lee?
Oh man, I had Ferguson winning the whole time. One thing about Kevin Lee,
the very end of that first round, whenever like he was on his like Kevin Lee, like it was like almost like Saved by the Bell. Like he got, I don't remember how he got on, if he got dropped up, but it was like, man, if the bell didn't ring 5 more seconds, the ref might have called it off. You know what I'm saying? You remember what part I'm talking about? The very end of the first round when Kevin Lee was like raining down the ground and pound on Tony Ferguson, like the very end of the round.
Yeah.
But are you saying you still had Tony Ferguson winning that round? Because you said you had Tony Ferguson winning like the whole fight.
Yeah, I had Ferguson winning the whole fight, and the funny thing about it is I seen a video on YouTube where when Kevin Lee was mounted, and they kind of did it like in slow motion, and the shots that Kevin Lee was landing were defended pretty well.
Okay.
Like they weren't really damaging Tony Ferguson. You know, the ref still could have stopped it, but that's how UFC is. But
yeah, it just
you know, Tony Ferguson,
looked.
Yeah, it looked pretty sketchy. I'm not gonna front, man. When I was watching it, I thought that the ref was gonna call the fight because he was looking like, okay.
Oh my god, and then I knew the time, so I was like, fucking just last. Really didn't want to end. All right, you there?
Yeah.
All right, so I'll just have to clip them together. Yeah, it stopped recording at like 15 minutes exactly. I don't know if it's because I don't have the premium version. This is the free version or whatever, but oh well. It's back recording again, so what's happening? Yeah, the other one's saved, so I'll just clip them together. So it is what it is. So, I know we were talking about Tony Ferguson.
Yeah, Tony Ferguson. I give him credit because he was active when he was on the ground, which led to it being defended better. Because some guys, they just cover your hands up and just absorb the blow. The ref is gonna call it. You're not defending yourself. So he was, he was still moving and doing his pushing his legs up and still showing that, hey, I'm actively defending the ground and pound. Mm-hmm. So that helped his case because Kevin Lee was there for like at least 15 seconds pounding on it, man.
Yeah, and I was listening to the Chael Sonnen podcast and it was Kevin Lee talking after the fight, and they were talking about how, man, before the fight, Tony Ferguson was saying how like he's from the future and he's changing the game, and it kind of just sounded like some of that Tony Ferguson kind of like trash talk. How you're like, all right, dude, it's kind of funny, how I'm in the hyperbolic time changer and I'm from the future and I'm changing the game type shit. And then after the fight though, they were talking about his elbows from the bottom and how fucking vicious they were. He was like, man, that's something. Kevin Lee was like, hey, that's something I'm going to have to add to my game. Chael Sonnen was like, yeah, I think a lot of people are going to start adding that to their game. Tony Ferguson might have changed the game just from that fight right there with the from the bottom, just the amount of damage he was doing with them fucking elbows. And so, that's to speak on Tony Ferguson when he's on his back. He's still dangerous, man. It's a lot of people, man, are not giving him a chance versus Conor McGregor, and I don't know. I just don't. What do you think about that, Tony Ferguson versus Conor McGregor? And I'm sure you are because you're a hardcore fan. Is that the fight you wanted to see Conor McGregor come back to?
Yeah, definitely, 100%. I want to see him. I know it's looking that way, but I know the UFC, they throw little things out there just to get somebody to lower their price.
I know,
just to take a little.
Man, I was thinking about that. That's almost, I had to get my tinfoil hat off because there's so much stuff that's been coming out, and it's like, man, if all of this is just to get Nate Diaz to take a deal, because think about it, like, Paulie's coming out and talking about his manager reaching out to Conor. They're doing all of this Tony Ferguson talk. Dana White's coming out and saying Tony Ferguson's getting. It's like, man, there's a lot of people putting pressure on Nate Diaz. So it's like, I wonder if everybody's doing it to get Nate Diaz to say yes because that's what the UFC wants, or if, man, because why Conor say Tony? It's like, damn. Do you think that it's more them really trying to put pressure on Nate Diaz, or do you think it's kind of official? Tony Ferguson's getting the fight.
I think it's to put pressure. I think they will do the fight if Nate Diaz doesn't accept what they want to give him. It's similar to, remember UFC 205 when Eddie Alvarez was the champ. They was like, okay, we'll give you Khabib.
Yeah,
because they had Khabib in there because they wanted
fake ass contract. I remember.
Yeah. Because Eddie Alvarez knew Khabib was a tougher fight because Khabib has a ground game and his ground game is superior to Eddie Alvarez's. So it's like, it's either you take this, let's say 500,000, and fight Conor, or we
Yep.
give you this 500,000 and fight Khabib. But the thing is, with McGregor, you get pay-per-view points in there because he's a big star.
Yeah.
But we're not going to increase your
pay.
guaranteed salary. So it's like obvious you're going to go the McGregor route instead of taking this hard ass Khabib fight.
Yep.
And I think that's the same thing they're doing. Okay, they'll give Tony Ferguson the fight. Let's say the deadline is, let's say October 30th, so that McGregor could have a 2-week training camp. So let's say the deadline is October 30th before they sign a deal. They're gonna push Ferguson out there because still, if Ferguson gets it, it's champion versus champion. Still, they can still push that motive. But the thing is, Diaz, his asking price, 20 million, bro. That is, come on, bro. My thing is,
that's not
insane.
gonna happen. I don't know. You know how whenever you aim high, they say shoot for the moon, and if you miss, you'll land amongst the stars. I think he said 20 million, but that's just completely unreasonable. I'm thinking maybe he's wanting 10 million, said 20 million, but like that's 20 million. Come on, like I don't understand. I know he got a smart team behind him now, and they do need the fight, but Tony Ferguson, I think he might be getting the fight at this point. I mean, but
I think so.
Nate Diaz, he might have a couple of weeks left to say yes to the deal. I was gonna say something about that Eddie Alvarez and Khabib situation, but I forgot what it is, so forget it. So
but the thing is though, I wouldn't. If I was Dana, I wouldn't even consider Nate Diaz.
Yeah.
Because you got to think, man. If I'm Dana White, if I give this fight to Nate Diaz, that's not going to do anything for me long term, because you got to think, he has one win over Conor, and he's already held up the company for over a year.
Oh yeah.
Because Nate Diaz, he has more star power now with that win over Conor than he had coming into UFC 196.
For sure.
So and then it's like, okay,
fight, bro. Nate Diaz, even though he was a hardcore fan favorite to the general public didn't really know who Nate Diaz was. I mean, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, the general public that everybody talks about and the casual fans today, Conor McGregor really put him on everybody's radar. Him beating Conor McGregor. If Conor McGregor would have just beat Nate Diaz, he probably still wouldn't have been that big of a star. Just beat Nate Diaz and move on. The fact that he beat Conor McGregor is really what it is where he got all of his fucking star power from. Even though he was a fan favorite and stuff, before the Conor fight, Nick Diaz was really the bigger Diaz brother. I mean, you know what I'm saying? That's who was my favorite Diaz brother. Like, even though I liked Nate Diaz as well, I liked the Diaz brothers. Nick Diaz was, like, to me, like the elite fighter out of the two. Like, Nate Diaz was cool and shit, but Nick Diaz was the one fighting GSP and Anderson Silva and Carlos Condit and shit. So, but to your point though, you're right. Nate Diaz, if he fights Conor again, he might retire after that. So if he beats Conor McGregor and retires, you don't really get anything out of Conor McGregor losing. If Conor McGregor beats him, that's great and all, but I understand your point completely. Tony Ferguson fighting Conor, Tony Ferguson's going to be fighting again whether he wins or loses to Conor. He's going to keep fighting with that fucking rub or that star power he gets from that fight. And so I completely understand your point. I mean, and the only reason I think Nate Diaz is such a consideration is the fact that he would probably bring the UFC like 2 million buys compared to the 1.5 Tony Ferguson's going to bring. Because I don't know how much more of a jump, honestly. But that 500,000 is a lot when you look at these last two pay-per-view buys that, like, supposedly neither one of them cracked 200,000 fucking buys. So that extra 500,000 pay-per-view buys is like 2 or 3 extra pay-per-views. So it is a big number, but man, the pay-per-view buys you might get from Tony Ferguson's next 5 reviews compared to Nate Diaz's this one, you're right. I mean, Tony Ferguson's probably just the right option. And if that happens, what is Nate Diaz gonna do if Tony Ferguson does get the fight? Is he gonna wait and then if Conor wins, then I'll fight Conor, or if Conor loses, then I'll fight Conor, or what's gonna happen with Nate Diaz? And speaking of Nate Diaz, what about Nick Diaz? I mean, you know what I'm saying? When is he coming back? He had that like whereabouts failure from USADA, but since then we haven't really much about that, and that was like supposed to be like a 6-month from a 6 month to a 2 year suspension. I never heard if it was 6 months. I never heard if it was 2 years. I never heard if it got waived or anything about that. So, and then the fact that Carlos Condit's coming back and it's not against Nick Diaz, which would have been a fucking great comeback fight. Nick Diaz coming back, Carlos Condit coming back. Let's get it. But now that Carlos Condit's fighting Neil Magny, who is Nick Diaz gonna fight? What are the Diaz brothers gonna do? Are they just staying in the UFC, but kind of maybe I don't know. I think we'll see at least one of them fight again, but I don't know. What do you think about Nick Diaz and Nate Diaz, their future, if Nate doesn't get the Conor fight? What do you think? I mean, Nick or Nate?
Man, to tell you the truth, man, I really don't know what the Diaz brothers are gonna do. I think personally that the reason why Nate is not fighting and declining so much fights is because of his brother.
Oh, okay.
Because ever since his brother, because his brother, he's like the first one that had the fuck you UFC, fuck you Dana mindset.
Yeah.
And ever since his brother came off suspension, Nate Diaz has completely shut down, stopped fighting. I could hear Nick Diaz telling them now, man, fuck them motherfuckers, UFC shit, fuck them motherfuckers. Don't fight until Dana gives you back your rematch with McGregor. You guys are both 1-1. But honestly, he's a hindrance to his brother more than anything to me personally. I don't know if he's telling him this. Somebody has to be telling him.
I was gonna say,
fight.
Do you think it's just his brother? It's all his brother's ideas, or do you think they have somebody that, since he's got all that Conor McGregor money, that they've hired, like somebody like not a PR, but like a manager? Like,
I mean,
I don't know.
It can't be manager. He owes his manager $1 million right now that he's suing him for. So I don't think it's manager.
Have a different manager since then. Yeah. Okay, so yeah, that was my question. Do you think this is a manager or Nick Diaz? Because to me, it seems like I don't know if it's a greedy manager or what, but for them to realize that they have so much power in the UFC, like the UFC needs us. But you're right, that might be Nick Diaz. Like, nah, bro, they fucking need you. They want that trilogy. You know what I'm saying? You could be right. So go ahead.
Yeah, man. So that's what I think. Because definitely, look at it from my perspective. If I was Nate Diaz, when Tony Ferguson was first calling me out, and to be honest with you, Tony Ferguson is very hittable. With Diaz's boxing and cardio, and Diaz has good jiu-jitsu. I don't see Tony Ferguson submitting Diaz as easily as he did Kevin Lee. Yeah. So honestly, Nate Diaz had a good chance.
I just got to stop you there. I just got to just real quick, because you said as easily as he did Kevin Lee. Kevin Lee did not as easy. The fact that I said it was easy because he had 2 submission attempts in like a minute and a half. Yeah. And like I've seen some people saying that triangle choke wasn't even like all the way incorrect the way that he submitted him. But okay, I was just stopping for a second there to say, to point out that impressive. Whenever he was in that armbar attempt and he jumped over, it looked like it was over, and he got out of that armbar. But then he did get submitted right after that. But go ahead.
So I think that Nate Diaz, just because I'm a Tony Ferguson, I've become a fan of him ever since the RDA fight. I didn't know who he was before then. Mm-hmm. But just looking at it from an overall perspective and not using my biasness, because I'm not a Diaz fan, I think Nate will stand a decent chance of beating him. And then, like, if you beat him and then you became the interim champ, you could have really strong-armed the UFC into the money.
Man, that's one thing that I seen that kind of made me side-eye Nate Diaz a while ago. He had the opportunity to fight Tony Ferguson for the interim title, and I'm like, if you're not going to fight for the interim title while Conor's the champ, then you don't want to fight anybody except Conor. Because if you beat Tony Ferguson for the interim title, Conor can't fight. No, that even makes the fight bigger. Nate Diaz became the interim champion while Conor was away. That makes the fight that much bigger if Nate Diaz already has a belt around his waist. But he didn't want that opportunity. I was like, what? And then that it's racing season and shit. I was like, yo, man, it's interim title season. I don't know what the hell you're talking about here.
Yeah, man, because one thing, I've heard you say it too, that when you become a champion, you get championship pay.
Yep.
And you get a better cut of the pay-per-view. Mm-hmm. So with McGregor becoming the champ and fighting Floyd, and then you being the intern, let's say that they're gonna pay McGregor, let's say they're gonna pay him $20 million. You could have been like, fuck that. Everything he did over there was in boxing. That has nothing to do with the fucking UFC. I want 20 million too. You could have really
You
had.
definitely got a better case of getting $20 million if you're the interim champion. Definitely.
Yeah. But to me personally, and honestly, I don't want to see the UFC because it has been trending towards going down the entertainment route.
For sure.
And when I'm looking at it, man, I'm looking at it as a sport, / entertainment from the sport first. And I don't want to see the UFC give Nate Diaz a fight, knowing that he sat down for, let me see, like a year and 2 months.
Kind of reward him for sitting out.
Yeah, because you're going to get the biggest payday. They're going to have the most media at your fight, a sold-out arena, max pay-per-view buys. You're going to be on Jimmy Kimmel and all that crap again. And it's like, you're going to get all this notoriety. Then let's say you beat Conor, because Conor did narrowly beat him the second time.
Yep.
Let's say you beat Conor. You're going to strong-arm the UFC into some more money, talk a lot of shit, and then the UFC has nothing to do with you after that, because honestly, you're not that marketable, because you're smoking, you're saying fuck that every second, motherfucker. They can't market you.
Yep. Yeah,
so it's like,
it's not like the trash talk or whatever, he kind of slurs his words a little bit, you know what I'm saying? So it's not like when the trash talk always comes across as well as everyone else. I want to say something real quick, because this recording's at 14 minutes and 50 seconds. So if it stops at 15 minutes, I'll just hit the record button again. But I guess I can for sure just clip this together, and I'll probably just put a fucking commercial in right there if it does right now. Nope, we're at 15:01, so I'll just let you know if it stops again. But yeah, all right. But yeah, I completely agree, man. If Nate Diaz it's this hard to get him into the fight, while he's waiting on this fight. Once he becomes the champion, if he didn't want to fight for the interim, who's he gonna want to? It seems like he might be the type now to kind of maybe pick and choose his fights. As the champion, he's doing it, and not as the champion. He's kind of choosing his fight or waiting. So he might, you know what I'm saying? So yeah, it's not a good precedent. It's kind of the thing like Khabib being the champion. People don't really want to see it because of his inactivity. It's like if he becomes the champion, we might see the belt defended once a year, twice a year, and it's kind of, I see what you're saying. It's kind of the same thing with Nate Diaz. So yeah, I think Tony Ferguson's the right answer. Maybe even for the UFC, you're gonna get more out of it. And Nate Diaz, even if he gets the win, he might win in. All right, so you guys might have missed like 40 seconds to stop recording again, but hey, we're back. All right, so that's Nate Diaz and Tony Ferguson. Did you have anything else to say on that?
No, the one thing I'll say on that is, I think personally, if Tony Ferguson fights Conor, and if Conor wins or loses, the Diaz fight is completely off the table. If he fights Ferguson, the Diaz fight is completely 100%. That's just my intuition talking. I just don't think that the Diaz fight happens anymore, because you're putting too much time in between it. Nate Diaz isn't doing anything to build no hype around himself.
Ferguson?
Yeah, it's not, because look, okay, Nate Diaz has a price he wants, and then let's say that Ferguson and Conor, let's say they do 1.5. If they can get 1.5 out of Ferguson, who has quote unquote cringy trash talk, they're not. Come on, bro, they're not gonna pay you, because he's gonna bring in more fans now. Since he fought Floyd, I have a couple friends, man. They're boxing guys, and they said to me out their own mouth, they want to see Conor's next fight, and they don't care who it's
for sure.
So the fact that you're bringing in casuals to boxing guys to want to see your next fight, just
Conor
how you
can
perform.
do the heavy lifting, for sure.
Yeah, just to see how you perform. You're gonna have more people there. There's millions of people showed up to just hear him talk for $10. The little eating with Conor McGregor thing. People are showing up just to hear you talk, and then you have Ireland behind you, the whole UK behind you, pretty much. And come on, man, it's not even close. It's not even close.
And the thing is, we can't even guarantee Nate Diaz can make the weight. We heard Shannon Sharp say Nate Diaz will never make 155 pounds.
Yeah. Right. Shout out to Shannon Sharp. Hey, that miles in the yak.
Speaking of Shannon Sharp, okay, so so are you a fan of the NFL at all? Greg Hardy?
Yeah.
You see, Greg Hardy's got his MMA amateur debut coming up November 4th. I just seen that. I mean, I didn't report on it, but I kind of am interested in watching that. I mean, I do know he's got that past and all of that shit, and say what you will, but I'm low-key kind of interested in seeing how he does in his MMA debut. And did you know that it was scheduled?
Yeah. I seen it, man. And the first thing that came to my mind when I seen that he had a fight scheduled, man, I thought this man gonna kill somebody, man. I was bro.
I'm interested to see how an ex-NFL player does, and he's not just a bad NFL player. He was an NFL star. He's a fucking savage. But one thing is, I don't think he's gonna go to the UFC ever. I think if anywhere, it's gonna have to be somewhere like Rizin or Bellator, where there's probably not USADA. Because I don't know much about the NFL, but I don't think they go by USADA guidelines, but I'm sure a lot of those guys are on something over there. And one thing that I just thought of was, did you notice a while ago whenever John Jones like popped dirty, like how his brothers popped dirty like 2 weeks later in the NFL?
Yeah.
That's another thing that's kind of, whenever they talk about how John Jones, it could be unreasonable ingestion or whatever, like somehow he might skate clean, which I don't think is really going to happen or whatever, but it's like that doesn't get brought up whenever you talk about, like, to me, it's just confirmed to me. John Jones, there's no way he was really clean, especially thinking about that NFL shit. But yeah, Greg Hardy, he's gonna be fighting. That's news.
Speaking on John Jones real quick, man.
Okay, yeah, for sure.
I remember because I follow him on Instagram, and before the fight was actually signed, even when he showed up to that press conference with DC, when he had his high fade or whatever, he looked severely out of shape. Severely out of shape, man. If you go back to his Instagram pictures before he actually got the fight with DC, like before it was signed, he was severely out of shape.
Okay.
Now, man, I've been working out since January.
I don't remember. Was he out of shape? Did he look out of shape in his OSP fight? I don't remember.
No. He was muscular then.
Okay. So
go
ahead.
But before this DC2 fight,
yeah, okay,
he was severely out of shape.
I was just in my head. I was thinking. I wonder if if he looked out of shape going into his OSP fight when that was clean or whatever. But yeah, I was just a side thought in my head. But yeah, my bad. Go ahead.
He was severely out of shape. When I was following him on Instagram, I was like, how is he gonna lose all this weight, man? And I'm thinking to myself, I've been working out since January, and I probably lost like 30 pounds within the time frame. And I understand that you guys are professional athletes. You guys eat, sleep, train, and guys like me have to eat, sleep, work, train, and it's not a science like theirs is.
Yeah.
But still, man, to lose all that weight in, let's say, 6 weeks, 8 weeks, and then to get in that kind of shape, I was like, something not right about that, man. You've been sitting on your ass eating all kind of crap for so long, and now you're abbed up, muscular. I'm like, in 2 months, man, it's not that easy attainable, bro. I thought something was fishy with that, but I just credit it to, maybe, since he's a professional athlete, he can lose the weight quicker because that's what he's paid to do, of course, because that's all he does.
Yeah. I completely understand what you're saying. I just got to clarify this by saying, we're just two fans talking, so I'm not making any accusations with what I'm about to say, but I got to say, man, because I've had a lot of people in the comments talk about how USADA, even though they're good, there's a lot of people still skating through the system, and, man, this is, it's always been rumors with George St. Pierre, and, how people say he left before USADA, and, that's why he left, even though he's accused other people of steroids, but for George St. Pierre to be coming back, and I don't know if you've seen some of the latest news, Rashad Evans says how he wants to go back up to 205, and Rashad Evans, he's also never been caught doing steroids or anything, but I'm just curious, for some of these older guys that are still going, man, I wonder if, I don't know, man, this is kind of just crazy talk, but do you think there's some people at the top level or that can skate through USADA systems, or do you think USADA is just really good at their job? Because a lot of people aren't as convinced on USADA.
I think USADA is doing a good job of keeping the sport clean.
I do too. That's really what I feel like. I feel like USADA is really fucking good, and that could just be because I don't have experience with steroids and all that shit. But to me, for John Jones and Brock Lesnar and all these people to be getting Junior Dos Santos, for these UFC pay-per-views to be getting hit, it's hard for people to convince me USADA's not doing their job. But just in with the weight and stuff that GSP's putting on, and there's been those pictures of him being bloated. I was just wondering, like, maybe he just tinfoil shit. I wonder if there's some people that maybe found something for him to be coming back at a heavier weight class. What do you think about? I mean, we can transition into UFC 217. What do you think about GSP coming back to 185?
Man, honestly, man, like you said, to put the tinfoil hat on a little bit, I think it would be better for the UFC if he was to win the fight, of course, because Bisping, he's kind of, he's not as big as draw as GSP will be. So like GSP winning the title and being a two division champ, that would sell.
Michael Bisping's numbers. Is he not really a draw? No, he's good at trash talking. Is he not really a draw? I don't even really know.
No, I don't think he's a draw.
GSP regardless, so okay.
Yeah, so I don't think he's a big. He might be more of a draw now.
I would assume the UK behind him. I mean, a country. So, but okay, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, but I think they would want GSP to win the fight because GSP is a bigger draw because he has the history of being he had the most consecutive title defenses for a while. He has the image. I think they would want him to win.
No, I agree. And one thing I was thinking about is if Michael Bisping loses, he could go on to be Anderson Silva's next fight. You know what I'm saying? Because if Michael Bisping loses, he could fight Silva next. He wouldn't have to fucking fight Whitaker or none of these dudes. He could go fight Silva and then retire because he did say, I heard it on his podcast, that his plan is to win or lose this fight and then retire in his hometown next fight. So I think if he loses, I would rather see Bisping versus Silva again. I think their first fight was in his hometown, if I'm not mistaken, actually, right?
I'm not sure
where it was, but either way, yeah. If GSP wins, though, they're saying he would have to defend against Whitaker. What do you think would happen there? I know I stopped you. You can go ahead where you were if you remember.
Yeah. Looking at GSP pictures, man, I've seen some pictures of him like in like a white background a couple weeks ago or a couple days ago. He looks fat, man. The man doesn't look like he's in good shape, like the ripped GSP that used to fight. I'm not seeing that guy. And then to think
that has
about
anything to do with USADA, or you think that's just because he's going up to 185?
Both.
Okay.
Both. I think that the reason he's fighting that 185 is for a couple reasons. Woodley is a better version of GSP.
Man, I agree. I'm gonna say I agree with you. I think he's fighting, and Bisping has said this. He's fighting Bisping because he feels like he can beat Bisping. You know what I'm saying? As far as that's what Bisping said. He's fighting me because he feels like he can control me or wrestle. And a lot of people were saying, well, whenever GSP was the champion, Tyron Woodley was fighting, and they're about the same age, so you can't say that he's better than GSP. And I'm saying, well, then why isn't he coming back in that welterweight belt? You know what I'm saying? Why does he want to go to 185 now? And he's not the only one that wants to fight Bisping. Motherfuckers want to go up from 155 to fight Bisping for the belt. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, they got Bisping looking soft out here with the amount of people that are fucking wanting to fight him. When you look at Tyron Woodley, people are not clamoring to fight him for the title. When you look at Bisping, you got motherfuckers wanting to come down from 205, motherfuckers wanting to fight at catchweight. Nick Diaz wanted to come back and fight Bisping. Tyron Woodley's willing to go up and fight Bisping. GSP's coming out of retirement to fight. Everybody wants to fight Bisping. So, I mean, that kind of, points in that direction that he feels like he can beat Bisping. And so, I definitely hear you when you say you said you feel like Tyron. Now, I don't know about the better version of GSP. I think they're a little different. The striking, GSP's got his striking's a little different with the karate style, but I do feel like GSP feels like he can beat Bisping a little easier than Woodley. So you can go ahead and continue.
Yeah, GSP has his karate and all of that, but I just think the things that GSP lost over time that he's been out the sport and age, Tyron Woodley has over him as far as explosiveness, speed, strength, wrestling, because I gave Tyron Woodley shit for the Maya fight, but the fact that you could defend over 20 takedowns throughout 5 rounds is still phenomenal. That's still phenomenal. And then GSP looking at that as if I can't take him down, that's a part of my fight. That's part of my fighting tactic.
Do you think GSP would be able to take him down better than Maya was able to? Even if he was, Woodley might be able to get back up. But I mean, I hear what you're saying.
I believe that I believe that GSP wouldn't be able to take down Tyron Woodley if Tyron Woodley knew that was the only thing GSP had to offer.
And that might be a boring fight.
Exactly. And then if you're GSP, you're like, you don't want to come back and fight Tyron Woodley because one, you might not sell because it's Tyron Woodley. He's not liked by many people. And
but do you
if
think
you
people
lose,
would tune in to watch Tyron lose though? Because that's the thing. Whenever people don't like you, it's better than them not caring. The fact that people don't like Tyron, do you think they tune in to watch him lose?
No, because people not tuning in to watch DJ lose.
Probably don't feel like he's gonna lose. You know what I'm saying? They don't want to tune in and watch him win. So if you don't like him and you don't feel like he's gonna lose, you're like, man, fuck that.
Exactly, man. Like, Woodley's a good fighter, man. But but keep it on the GSP thing.
Okay.
Like I said, man, Woodley's a better version of himself. Biz being, he kind of lucked up in beating Luke Rockhold, and he faked a knee injury for at least almost a year, I would say. He faked a knee injury to get the biggest fight possible. Yep. I don't think his knee was ever hurt. And like he said, it was hurt.
Yeah, I mean, it was real interesting how, he was ready to fight GSP, but then whenever it wasn't GSP, actually, I'm injured again.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? That was a little interesting, little fucking awkward.
Yeah, and honestly, to tell you the truth, man, the whole thing with GSP saying it's in his contract, man, contracts change like night and day. Man. Anything that Dana says out of his mouth, I really don't believe. Like when he says that the whole Ferguson thing, I don't believe that because I've heard him say,
now
Dana.
That you say that, I just thought about something that could be in his contract. You must defend or vacate, and he left out the vacate part, and he could win the title and say, now I want to go back and fight Conor McGregor, the stock market, and then vacate and give Robert. See that, man? Robert Whittaker might not get as lucky as Tony Ferguson, but hopefully they both don't get shit on. But I hope Robert Whittaker or Tony Ferguson gets it. But you can go ahead. But yeah, I was just thinking about that. He might be able to vacate in his contract if he wins.
The thing is, like where the UFC is now, I don't think that it matters what the contract says. I've seen many times people, get over on their contract, not do contract obligations because UFC right now needs stars. Mm-hmm. So they're not gonna, negotiate with GSP to come back. And then if he doesn't want to fight Robert Whittaker, a fight that he would lose, by the way, if he doesn't want to fight Robert Whittaker, everything's off the table. We're not going to use you anymore, GSP. You can't. Come on, nah. That's definitely, especially if that fight sells well. That's definitely There will be no contract obligation that he's obligated to fight 185. He's only saying that to make the fight seem like a real fight. I have to stay here. This is where I am now, and this is not just wanting to beat this guy.
Yeah, people would be pissed off if he was saying, "Yeah, I'm not defending against the interim title after." You're completely right with that. Yeah,
people would be pissed off, but if let's say he's gonna fight McGregor, let's say next year September, let's say he's gonna fight McGregor at 170. Those pissed off people are going to become excited people because now you could do the Canada versus Ireland thing, and oh my God, everybody would really tune in because you got two people that's been 2-weight world champions, 185, 170, 155, 145, and they're meeting. Man, that's a humongous fight.
It is, but man, that fight, it just seems like GSP would control Conor at that point because he's moved up to 185. Like Conor's just seems like he'd be way small, even though it's Conor though. It is Conor, but man, and Miesha Tate did say she would pick Conor versus GSP. Already building it. I don't know. I don't know. Yeah, I mean,
it'll be tough. It'll be tough, because GSP he'll be so much bigger and has fought so much bigger men. But if Conor could be quick, man, I've seen some crazy stuff, man. I've seen
it's too hard to doubt Conor at this point. I mean, I used to be that guy.
Yeah,
I just had another fucking day one hitter come at me, hit Ouncy. Oh man, I was a day one hitter, but now this channel sucks. You ride Conor McGregor's dick. Like, dude, what the fuck? I'm a Conor McGregor fan at this point. He's the biggest thing in MMA. What are you looking for? I don't understand what the fuck people are saying. I'm convinced. I've explained myself. How about you stop clicking the fucking Conor McGregor videos on my shit? Like, I don't get it. But people be hating on McGregor for some reason. I don't know what it is. Do you think I fucking do I have a love affair with Conor? I mean, I understand I was biased on the boxing shit, but I don't understand these people sometimes. He's not the first person
Nah,
to come at me like that.
nah, man, I don't think so because when you think about it, Conor is the biggest thing in MMA.
For sure.
You-
Huge.
So you know,
Some
it's
people
like
feel like I don't do enough shit on Conor McGregor. If I covered all the little fucking Conor McGregor, I don't even do that. I only cover the shit that I really find important somewhat, or that's interesting or entertaining. Like, I don't cover every little fucking detail and ride the man's dick. Like, I'm not even gonna talk about that dude, that one guy.
yeah, man. I don't think you do a lot of Conor McGregor stuff. Hell, you haven't really had much to really do on him, really, because he hasn't really been fighting. Last thing you did before the Tony Ferguson thing is, I don't even remember what else you did before that.
Shit, it was just when I did that like interview thing. I mean, yeah.
Yeah, but hell, if he's making waves in the media and you're covering UFC and he's a UFC fighter, then
the
hell,
one thing that was whenever he was in the club, and somebody did say, how this news, and I was like, I mean, it's not really news, but it is kind of, entertaining. You know what I'm saying? But yeah.
and it's McGregor.
Yeah,
like,
and it's fucking great. And I didn't even cover the part at the end where, like, there was another video I could have did. He was like, "This is that fuck you money." Like, he was getting that fuck you money.
Yeah,
that was pretty funny. I didn't even do that.
Man, he's the biggest name in fighting. I thought, and honestly, people said I was crazy. Said I didn't really, know anything because I'm not a boxing fan. But to me personally, he was more of an A side than Floyd was.
It's very
personally.
Because it's like kind of how Ronda Rousey. Whenever Ronda Rousey was a star and they compared her to Conor McGregor, she brought a different fan base. She made different people. Conor McGregor's big, but Ronda Rousey made like the grandma or just everybody from a whole different side. That's kind of what McGregor did for boxing. They made us who didn't watch boxing. Really, I mean, whenever Floyd Mayweather fought Andre Berto, I didn't watch that shit because I don't know who Andre Berto is, blah, blah, blah. So Conor McGregor brought a whole different audience to that shit. I mean, so I agree. I mean, I don't, now, I do agree with you. He probably was the A-side. Thing is, with the boxing contracts and all, they couldn't pay Conor McGregor more than Floyd. So, you know what I'm saying? They couldn't give Conor McGregor a $100 million check, whether he was worth it or not.
Yeah,
kind of
definitely.
Like the Nate Diaz situation. They ain't gonna give him 10 or 20 million whether they need him or not.
Yeah, definitely. Floyd is not gonna take a fight where he's not making more money. Hey, Floyd is watching your pockets where you watching his, bro, for real. So, but I just think that the fact that I didn't watch the Berto fight, but I did look over the pay-per-view numbers just to see what Floyd was selling before McGregor and Floyd actually fought.
Do you remember the numbers for the Berto fight? I never actually seen those numbers.
It was under $1 million. I think it was. Don't quote me. I think it was like 500,000.
Okay. Yeah, that's interesting. So, I know the Pacquiao was big, but I know the Berto one I didn't really hear anything about.
And then it was definitely under $1 million for 100% short. I think it was 500,000. But people forget about that with the Pacquiao fight. That fight was being built up for at least 3 years. When Floyd was ducking him to say when Pacquiao was knocking guys out, and Floyd was continuously going on ESPN saying,
that's the
"Not
only
now."
reason I watched that fight because I used to watch ESPN First Take and shit every day, and they talked
and
about
Skip
it for
built
so
it
long.
up too.
Skip,
and they was
Skip and
Skip
Stephen A.
and
It was like a Floyd and a Pacquiao guy.
Yeah, because Skip is gonna go against Floyd all the time, no matter who Floyd's fighting.
Yep, it's kind of like LeBron.
Yeah, it had years and years of build up, and I watched it too. I was hurt after I finished watching it because I didn't think it was any good.
Same here.
But I was mad about it. But the people forget that had years of build up, and then you got to think. McGregor has come to UFC, and UFC is pretty much a new sport. It doesn't have the history of Ali, James Toney, all those boxing, Vander Holyfield, all those guys. It doesn't have the history.
Exactly.
Man,
It's
boxing.
been around longer, so people
Yeah,
grew up watching boxing with their grandpas and their dads, and
yeah,
so there's still that's a family event. I mean, it's just been around way longer. There's more history, like you were saying.
yeah. Boxing, man. Boxing goes as deep as the civil rights days. Yeah,
Yep.
boxing goes as deep as Martin Luther King, even before them.
That shit fuck around
So
in history books and shit.
yeah, so you have to think that okay, of course, because with MMA being new, it doesn't have the old money to say that
Yeah, for
that's
sure.
boxing. So the fact that
But
this
it's
guy
definitely on the way. But yeah, for sure.
yeah, this guy that's been in the UFC for maybe 4 years could come in here and do a highest of 1.6 pay-per-view buys. Man, that's significant because
Super.
I was
duper.
covering like yeah, Conor has almost as much Twitter followers as Floyd. He has more Instagram followers than Floyd. He has a country behind him.
People like to say, "Oh, why do people talk about followers?" That shit matters. It's
Exactly.
27. That shit really matters today. That's huge.
Exactly, because that's the way of promoting.
For sure.
So people, I just, well, I think Conor was more of the A side, but I respect the fact that
Yeah.
Floyd had time invested, and you can't pay a new guy more than you're paying.
Yeah.
So, I mean, of course Floyd was gonna make more, but as far as that fight goes, I don't know what to say about that fight.
Yeah.
I don't know. I've so much about that fight. I've watched it as well. That Conor's gloves wasn't laced correctly. That's why he didn't have any power.
Yeah, I've seen all of the Yeah,
And then he was always taking a step back. That's why his power didn't translate. I don't know, man. I don't know.
Okay.
Floyd took shots.
Yeah. I was gonna go ahead and go back into UFC 216. We talked a little bit about the main event with GSP. I was gonna say, so who do you have winning that fight? I mean, you with your tinfoil hat on, you said GSP, but
All right, taking off the tinfoil hat.
yeah.
All right, taking off the tinfoil hat.
That's why I had to take off my tinfoil hat for my predictions. I just feel like Bisping should win the fight. You know what I'm saying? He's got a good chance. I mean, at the same time, GSP is one of the GOATs. That's one of the things, he defended his title against the top competition, but a long time ago. Michael Bisping's been active, kind of like Tyron Woodley, what we were saying, like, that's the difference, is he's been doing it, still been active, still got the explosiveness. And I think Michael Bisping, man, he should be training for this should be his fucking hardest training camp he's ever put in, you know what I'm saying? And he I don't know, I feel like, yeah, so do you think it's Bisping with your hat off?
Yeah, man. With my hat off, I would go Michael Bisping. Stopping him.
What about Cody Garbrandt and TJ Dillashaw? That's
Dillashaw.
You got Dillashaw?
Oh yeah.
Hell yeah, let's go, man. Some people, hey, that one's another highly contested one. There's a lot of people that are like, how are you picking TJ, man? Cody's got the best hands in the division. He's the best. Blah. I'm like, I explained it in my predictions. So so why do you got TJ?
Man, like, okay, so Garbrandt, he jumped up the ranks quickly by calling out Dominic Cruz after he knocked out every unranked guy. Called out Dominic
Thomas
Cruz.
Almeida was ranked, but then he went down in rankings and fought
Yeah.
Takia.
And the
Thomas
other guys
Almeida was
weren't.
that knockout. Thomas Almeida was still undefeated. That one is what shot Cody Garbrandt to the top of my fucking radar. Whenever I watched that fight, I was like, yo, I don't know who this kid is, but this dude's got the fucking potential to be a star. He could be the American Conor McGregor. This dude just fucking smoked this dude. He was, undefeated, dude. And that was before I had, that was just my thoughts in my head. But then the things that have transpired since then have kind of like made me be like, oh God, I like him as much as I did, my first impression, even though I still like him. But the fact that he went down in rankings and then skipped the top 5, and then, you know what I'm saying, to what you were saying.
Yeah, man. I think that the fact that Dillashaw had to go through 2 top 5 guys in Rafael Assunção and John Lineker, who was beating everybody on pace and on nobody not being able to handle his punching power, and the way Dillashaw beat him at UFC 207, man, that was phenomenal.
Yeah,
and then to think that Dillashaw incorporates all of MMA, not just hands and boxing. If he takes Garbrandt down, I don't think Garber's going to be able to get up as easily as one would expect him to.
Yeah,
because Dillashaw has pace. He's going to put a pace on Cody Garbrandt. And Dominic Cruz, he didn't really, to be honest, and give Dominic Cruz a fair shake, and just to call it how I see it, he didn't look like the Dominic Cruz that I'm accustomed to seeing.
Yeah,
you know,
100%. And Dominic Cruz has alluded to that. He says he doesn't like to make excuses, but he had been being active, which just kind of flared up his fucking injury. I forget the Muppet, I'll remember, but yeah.
Oh, plantar fasciitis.
Yeah, plantar fasciitis. That's exactly what I was thinking of. Yep.
Yeah. And then, like I said, he didn't look the way that he normally looks. But you know, Garbrandt beat him. I'm not going to take nothing away from Garbrandt. But
that made me kind of stop. I mean, I didn't stop all the way doubting him, but you know, after he skipped the rankings, and I was like, what? Why is he kind of skip? Why is he getting to skip TJ? The way he beat Dominic Cruz, I was like, okay, man, he at least deserves to be the champion. I can at least say that. The way that he beat him, he at least deserves it, in my opinion. Just
yeah.
I mean,
and then
some people might not be as impressed with the dancing and all that shit, but I mean, that does, you know, take energy, and the fact that he did it and he knocked Dominic Cruz down a couple times. But one thing about that people don't really take into consideration is the fact that Dominic Cruz has fought so many guys from Team Alpha Male. I mean, eventually they got to figure out the puzzle eventually. And one thing about I wanted to ask you is TJ Dillashaw's been moving around camp to camp. I think that's a good thing because he's learning new shit. The people at Team Alpha Male don't know what TJ Dillashaw's been learning. Meanwhile, he probably knows their rotation. How much could they really have changed? They didn't change their, you know, whatever they used to do at Team Alpha Male, he probably knows. They haven't changed it up that much. So they're still kind of doing the same thing while he's learning new things. Do you think that's an advantage or a disadvantage? And then, I mean, you can continue.
I'm not sure if it's an advantage. I think I would say it is an advantage if you're learning new things, and with different coaches, you're going to get a different aspect of fighting. And if you're with a different coach, let's say every month, they should be able to, you know, identify your weak points and, you know, and tell you where to excel at as far as different sparring partners as well.
Yeah.
But man, I just have him over. I think because listening to TJ Dillashaw and seeing how obsessed he is with the bantamweight title, he almost has it as if it's either the bantamweight title's around his belt or nothing.
Yeah,
so
just
and
the
then
title though.
To add on to
he
it,
was willing to go down and take Demetrius. He wants a fucking title. That means something. A UFC title. And
then when I hear how Garbrandt and Cruz are saying how obsessed he was in practice with not losing in practice, you know what I mean? And he kneeing the guy in the back of the head because the guy, I guess, took him down too many times or whatever.
Yeah.
To, you know, for somebody who's obsessed with something, who honestly, he should have been a rematch after at least one fight with Dominic Cruz.
Yeah. And because the way they lost, you know what I'm saying? Because Dana White uses that to Luke Rockhold. You got knocked out. Why do you deserve a rematch? Well, the exact opposite is you lost a close decision, so you do deserve a rematch.
Split decision.
You lost a close split decision, so the opposite of that is being knocked out. So if Luke Rockhold doesn't deserve a title, TJ Dillashaw does deserve the rematch. So
exactly,
and then he's beat two number one contenders since then, or two top contenders since then.
And then and then the thing is, Dominic Cruz didn't want to fight Dillashaw. Garbrandt called out Dominic Cruz for a rematch right after Dillashaw.
Yeah, that was kind of awkward to me. I was like, whoa, what is he? Does he not want smoke with TJ? That was like my first thoughts. Like, no, TJ's not getting skipped again. What the fuck?
And then DJ didn't want, for whatever reasons, you know, that, you know, wants to be added there. Mm-hmm. He didn't accept the Dillashaw fight.
Man, I'm telling you, that's that dark shit. Nobody wants that fight.
When I circle all those things in, and then I, you know, compute it, I'm like, guys are running from this dude right here, man. Sir. Guys don't want to see this dude. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, you know, because Dillashaw, to me, the three guys in the UFC that people don't want to fight are Dillashaw, Ferguson, and Robert Whittaker. Those three dudes right there, dudes people don't want to fight in their division.
Jimmy Rivera, he's made that list, but Dominic Cruz, he took the fight, which, hey, I was like, yo, that surprised me whenever he took that fight. So, But yeah, Jimmy Rivera, man, he's definitely on my radar. He was looking like a guy that people weren't wanting to take the fight with for a while, but yeah, he's on like a 19-20 fight win streak. But yeah, Robert Whitaker, man, I'm surprised Jacare and Romero, took both of them took the fight with him. But yeah, no, Bisping. I mean, yeah, Robert Whitaker, man, he's for sure one of those guys.
Man, and then it just the thing about Dillashaw. Did you see the Lineker fight?
Yeah.
Man, to me, in my personal opinion, that was one of the best performances, one-way performances I've seen in a long time.
Yeah,
as far as somebody going in there and actually fighting and tactically beating somebody like that, I haven't seen that in a long time, and he beat him handily.
The very first fight that put TJ Dillashaw on like favorite fight. Oh shit! I think it just stopped. Are you still there? Okay, I think it stopped recording. Let me call him back. Okay. I'm gonna pause this.
Yo.
What up? It said like my account got temporarily like suspended or some shit. Like someone sent a bunch of junk mail or something. I don't know what went on, but it just got unblocked. I just had to sign in and prove no one else was on my account. But yeah, so.
Hey man, false flag, man. They false flag both tight, bro.
Yeah, man. Damn, is this shit live? No. But it's all good. So we were talking about TJ Dillashaw and Cody Garbrandt, and you were saying, yeah, his John Lineker performance and how fucking one-sided it was to you and shit. So, and I was gonna say the first time I seen TJ Dillashaw, that's how I felt about him. Like I forget which fight it was, but it was before the Dominic Cruz fight. I was like, holy shit, who is this dude? I just was like, man, I can't wait to see his next fight. And since then, everything that's transpired with him getting up and shit, I've just become more of a fan. But yeah. For sure,
yeah.
Man. He's
he beats Garbrandt for sure.
One of the greatest, one of the best fighters for sure to me. Like he's in the top 5 or top 15 P for P on the UFC, and I think he should be. I don't think they got that wrong at all. I think he should be there. So yeah, but yeah, it's gonna tell us a lot. If Cody Garbrandt beats TJ Dillashaw, what will you think then? He for sure. I mean, I already feel like he deserves to be the champion. But if he beats TJ Dillashaw, then I don't see anybody aside from Jimmy Rivera that's really probably gonna touch Cody for a while. I mean,
yeah. If he beats TJ, then I have to give him. Well, I already do give him respect already. Yeah. I would have to really, really, really take a really good look at Cody. Like, okay, this guy has big time star potential.
For sure. Big
time star potential. He needs to consider fighting Max Holloway or something.
You know, somebody, I forgot who it was. It might have been my cousin. Somebody was saying, fucking think about Max Holloway versus Tony Ferguson.
Oh, yeah, that would be crazy, but I got Tony.
Yeah, man.
Submission.
That 200 pounds ain't no fucking joke.
Yeah, I got him by submission.
Yeah, it'd be a good fight.
What do you think about the What do you think about the heavyweight division?
The heavyweight division, man. Bellator's UFC's no. I think the heavyweight division is cool. I mean, with Kane being gone, I mean we got Francis, but I don't know if he's gonna give. I like Alistair, man. I really like Alistair. I like Stipe. Francis, I like Francis, but he hasn't really. He's got a tough test coming up. It's his first real test. He has to fight that. But what do you mean? Do you mean how deep it is? Or, I mean, it's not, I don't know if it's super deep, but it's cool. I mean, I like it. I watch the fights.
I mean, no, man. To me, I don't know. To me, it seems like everybody is over the hill. Weak chins. One shot lays them down.
But do you think that's because they're over the hill or because it's heavyweights?
Over the hill.
Okay.
Over the hill, man. And then hey, I know you were I gotta get you on this one. I know you're a Derek Lewis fan.
I was just thinking about him.
Hey man, that dude couldn't get out of bed, my dog. God damn.
Oh my god, I don't even get it. I don't get it. I thought he was coming out of retirement because he felt better. I don't even know why he was coming out of retirement so early.
Hey man, I I had wrote on one of the videos you had did, man. I said after he loses this fight, man, he's gonna say his back was hurt. He's gonna go back into
He
retirement.
did an interview like not too long before the fight and said he was only at 80%, and I was like, he's already got an excuse before the fight starts. And then he got pulled, but he already said he was 80%, like going to training camp.
Yeah, man. Derek Lewis, man, that dude, man, eating ribs before the fight, man.
Yeah.
Like,
Somebody said that was his nutritionist, like joking and shit, but if that's his nutritionist, he damn sure knew. But yeah, that's crazy. And then also, Alistair Overeem pointed out on the MMA hour he was doing backflips into the pool before that fight.
Yeah, man, that's crazy, man. What do you think about Mark?
Fucking helping during Hurricane Harvey, so hey, that's all
yeah.
that. But yeah, but as far as the fighting and the injuries go, that's a whole that's fucking. You got me there.
Hey man, what do you think about Mark Hunt cussing out Dana and all of that?
Almost want to pull up that shit because it was so funny. Mark Hunt, he's hilarious, but I mean, I think the UFC did what they had to do, pulling him, because the interview he did, if you listen to it, it didn't sound like he was joking. They took it out of context. He said some shit like, you know, he can't remember and all that shit. So I think they did the right thing. I think Mark Hunt's fucking, whenever he goes off though, is hilarious. I think that's fucking hilarious. Even though I do think he was kind of in the wrong here. I mean, you can't really be mad. I mean, of course you're gonna be mad when you get pulled from a main event, especially in Sydney, being Mark Hunt. But he did that interview. I don't know. What if Mark Hunt would have got hurt in that fight? You know what I'm saying? If he would have got something in that fight, even a concussion, even in that fight after that interview, and then you say, oh, and look at this interview. The UFC should have looked at that interview before his fight and it would have been terrible. Andy's already in a lawsuit with him. That if he would have got hurt in that fight alone, it might have won a fucking lawsuit with the UFC. So I think they did what they had to do.
Yeah, I definitely, you know, I was surprised they're still allowing him to fight during the lawsuit.
Yeah, and they were being nice. They let him fight in New Zealand and then Sydney. They were being nice.
Yeah, he didn't have to travel for those fights, man.
Yeah, like he's in a lawsuit. You think they're sending that motherfucker to Antarctica?
Yeah, man. It's shut them down, period. Because honestly, they're funding the lawsuit.
Letting them, period, exactly. Not only are they letting you fight, they're not making you travel. They're giving you main events. Both of them are main events. Like, they were being cool.
And then, you know, the heavyweights, they make a lot of money because Mark Hunt making.
Bro, he makes over $500,000 for sure per fight.
Yeah, and that same money they give you, you're turning back and throwing it into your legal team. So I would have just cut him off until after the lawsuit.
Yeah, that's a good fucking point. They're paying for his legal fees by giving him main event fights.
Yeah, man, I would have cut him off, man. I wouldn't have had him fighting for the company, knowing that you're suing us currently. Like, I wouldn't have had you compete.
Oh yeah,
because you know,
and that brings more attention to the lawsuit. Because whenever Mark Hunt fights, the fact that there's an ongoing lawsuit's definitely going to get brought up.
Exactly, man. So I wouldn't have him fight, but UFC, like you said, man, they were being nice to him, man, and he went out there. I don't think he's gonna fight again. I think they're gonna drag it out to see what happened to this lawsuit.
Yeah, unless the lawsuit gets canceled or something, then they might let him fight again. But now I don't know if they're gonna let him fight again since that interview, because now since he passed the medicals and they still had to pull him, it's like now they're gonna have to do some super extensive testing because the regular medicals weren't enough. And with that interview.
Yeah, and he's saying, oh, you know, just a joke him and his wife make about the word slurring. No,
buddy. Yeah, no.
You've been in too many wars, man. I think it was a Bigfoot fight, and these guys were just throwing shots back and forth. I forgot who he was fighting. Yeah, man, those guys was in there going 5 hard rounds, trading headshots. So
yeah, I don't remember if it was a Stipe fight. There was some fight where somebody was whooping his ass, but they just couldn't put him out, so they just kept whooping his ass. I was like, "Fuck, man!" I forget.
Yeah, which fight? Yeah, I remember seeing a fight like that.
I forget.
And Alistair Overeem knocked him out this year too.
Yep. Yeah,
so
he's definitely been in some wars. and he's toward the edge of his career, and he's heavyweight. I mean, and the Brock Lesnar fight, I mean, even though it wasn't knockout type shit, he still took some damage there, big ass Brock Lesnar. But yeah, I know what you're saying. I'm surprised. I wasn't even thinking about that till you pointed it out. Shit, the fact that they're giving him these opportunities is helping pay for his goddamn lawsuit against him. I wasn't even thinking about that. That's a good point.
Hey man, before we get out of here, man, I have to call you out on the DC being number 1 pound for pound, bro.
Yeah,
what is that?
Hey, you're gonna be gone soon, because I've been giving some people say I've been giving Michael Bisping too much credit. I've been trying to creep him up there.
Damn, bro, you said DC number 1 pound for pound.
Bro, undefeated at heavyweight, beat Frank Mir, beat Roy Nelson, moved down because he didn't want to fight Cain Velasquez, his teammate. Only person he lost to was John Jones, who was dirty. He's undefeated to everybody in the fucking UFC at 2 divisions except for John Jones. 1 fight, 2 fights, one of them got overturned. He's only lost to John Jones and no for USADA. If Daniel Cormier was 24-0, if he didn't even have that one, would you still not have him up there?
Well, now that you say it like that, it makes it pretty impressive. But he's not out there finishing guys, though, man. Like, he's not out there putting guys away.
That's true, but then when people talk about Demetrius Johnson, they take away from him, and he is putting guys away.
Yeah,
I mean, I know that's a little different. It's not the same thing, but, I mean, so to be the greatest, I mean, to be the greatest, though, it should be more about wins rather than the way you win. I mean, that you might not be the most entertaining, but it doesn't change the fact that no one can beat you. That's kind of like the Jorge Masvidal Damian Maia fight. Jorge Masvidal did more damage, and people might not have liked Damian Maia won, but even Jorge Masvidal said, hey, he was able to control me, and I couldn't get out of it. So I ain't mad that they gave him the win, because I couldn't get he controlling me.
True, man. I don't know, man. It's just hard for me.
I question myself some days whenever I think about it. I mean, because I know a lot of people don't agree with it, but it's just when you think about it, like undefeated at heavyweight, and then he's only lost to John Jones, who was dirty. It's proven. I mean, if he didn't even have that one, I wonder if people would feel the same way. If he was just had the 24-0 record at heavyweight and light heavyweight, I wonder if it would just look different, or if the fact that, and I know people say, but the fact that he got knocked out by John Jones, even in that last fight, even though it was overturned, they just say they can't see somebody known as the GOAT that's got knocked out like that. But I mean, then when you look at it like that, it's like, okay, well, so what are you saying? The GOAT can't have a loss? You're saying the GOAT has to be undefeated? Because even if you say that, he's one of the closest to undefeated. Conor McGregor's not undefeated. Demetrius Johnson's not undefeated, unless you talk about it flyweight. Anderson Silva's definitely not undefeated. So, I mean, I just don't, people are always going to have a different criteria for what the GOAT is to them. But, I mean, it's for sure arguable, and he hasn't lost to anybody but John Jones. And John Jones was dirty. Both fights, and it's fair to say that, because if he felt like he could beat Daniel Cormier clean, he wouldn't have been dirty in the second fight.
True. Well, they haven't really. They're doing an appeal right now, so
yeah. But I mean,
we'll see, man.
Even if you fucking ate fucking horse meat, dog, there were steroids in that horse meat. Damn, I mean, it still was dirty. Even if you didn't do it on purpose. But I mean, that would be crazy if he gets no suspension. But I think Jeff Nowinski has came out and clarified, even though he said that on Bruce Buffer's podcast, that it's possible he didn't say that they were, that's.
Yeah, he kind of left the door open. He left the door open a lot during that interview. Yeah, man, he damn near left the door wide open. Man, honestly, like reading the tea leaves of what he was saying, he made it seem like John Jones might not face any disciplinary. He made it seem like there's a chance.
He did. That's crazy. It was kind of crazy to hear that. Like, man, are they working with him, or I don't know what the fuck? Are they trying? I mean, it makes sense for the UFC to want John Jones if possible, but It's even if he does get no suspension, it's gonna be hard for me to believe it, because like we were talking about with his brothers earlier, like even if it was random dog meat or horse meat or whatever the fuck, man, there's been so many things and rumors, and then also the brother thing that point toward being dirty. It's just so hard for me to believe that he's a clean fighter.
I mean, it will definitely he's definitely tainted from here on out for sure.
Yep.
But
I think there's always, no matter what, if he gets suspended or not, even if he doesn't get suspended, there's going to be a million people that don't believe it.
Yeah, so you saw that definitely tainted him, no matter which way it goes. So, but if he was to not be suspended and then come back to the UFC, I don't really think he'll return to light heavyweight, because I just don't see him wanting to fight DC again. Because then it would be like, okay, it has to be a third fight now. There is, especially if DC fights Volkan, like let's say in February. Then it's like if John Jones comes back in March and they say, okay, you weren't dirty. It's like, what do you do with the title? The title had just been defended.
Oh yeah, that's a whole other shit show. I thought about that. What the fuck happens if he doesn't get suspended? Do they strip DC after they already gave him his belt? What?
Exactly. You would say, okay, the logical thing would be like, okay, DC just defended against one of the top contenders and beat him. The least you can do is make DC. The least you can say is DC was the interim champion during your investigation. So when you have the intern, but it's like, honestly, to me, I'm like, if they fought again, just taking everything else out of it, John Jones will beat him again. Because well, hell, if USADA reverses it, then he was.
Well, what if he doesn't have that same fucking steroid horse meat?
I think the
I mean, no, I see what you're saying. Yeah, I mean, yeah, it would just be. I don't know if I could buy it, man. I understand, yeah, if it was unintentional, but with the, it just would be so fucking hard. It would be so hard.
Yeah, if he does come back, no suspension, clear of every investigation and all of that. If I was him, man, I'll just go up to heavyweight, man, because it just can't do the DC thing no more, man, and the drama.
Coming to heavyweight, coming back to
and
get that fight.
Yeah, I wouldn't fight DC again, honestly. DC already said he wanted to fight John Jones again, but I wouldn't do it, because if let's okay, I go out there and I beat him again, it doesn't prove anything.
Yeah.
I've done this clean, dirty, whatever 3 times already.
Yeah.
So it's like, come on, man. You're going to call me the same bitch. You're going to call me the same cheater. You're going to call me the same double cheeseburger. This is going to be the same shit. John Jones is going to go in there with a big reach advantage. Honestly, I don't know how people said that DC won any round. I was watching that fight. I didn't see DC win any round in that fight.
I'd have to watch it again, but I think I was under the impression he won one or two of definitely one of the first 2 rounds, but I have to watch it again. But I know some people said they had him winning every round. I don't remember who it was, but I'm talking like people in the MMA media and shit. Now I didn't never think that. I didn't think he was winning every fucking round or every second of that fight for sure. But I think I might have gave him one of those rounds for sure, not 2.
Oh man, John Jones he was throwing a lot of strikes consistently, man, and he was doing a lot of leg kicks, and I know John Jones has the length on him, so of course he can touch him before DC touch him. But you still have to count it for what it's worth, man. Like if John Jones is throwing 100 leg kicks and DC gets a good 10 headshots in, hey man.
Another thing is the way that he beat him with the DC ducking into the leg kick that he predicted like fucking 4 years ago. It was like, damn. Like that's another thing that would be bad about the third fight. Like he's just gonna do, you know what I'm saying? Like he knows how to beat you, and he literally called it and did it and executed it. And yeah, that's just that was really kind of awkward too after the fight.
Yeah, John Jones has the highest IQ when it comes to fighting inside the octagon. Yeah, as far as because the steroids don't help you, tell you when to throw a leg kick or a head kick.
Yeah. Do you think he would have the same success at heavyweight? Because I see some people argue that he wouldn't have at light heavyweight. He's had a size advantage over everybody he fought, and the closest person to his size was Alexander Gustafsson, and that was a really close fight. So do you think at heavyweight he would have the same success? You think he could have that success against someone like fucking Stipe? He would have to bulk up, but do you think he would have the same success up there?
Yeah, I do, man, because one thing about it is that John Jones may be smaller than Stipe and Alistair and all those guys, but he's definitely more. It's hard to. Well, I'm just going to call it without the steroids. He's definitely more technical than those guys.
Yeah.
And then the thing is, like, John Jones is a draw, so all his fights are going to be top card fights, which are all main event.
Yeah,
so if Stipe can't get him out of there in 2 rounds, Stipe can't get him out of there in 2 rounds. The heavyweights don't usually, and I bet a lot, and some of the bets I do make is a heavyweight fight not going the distance, because they normally 9 out of 10 times they do not go the distance because guys are too big, too strong, and one of these guys is gonna get knocked out.
Yeah.
So,
I thought you were about to like say you didn't. Do you not? Stipe has the cardio to go 5 rounds with John Jones?
No, Stipe can't.
Yeah, he can.
I don't, because when I Stipe fight, he loads up a lot. Like he's trying to throw haymakers a lot, and he doesn't really utilize the leg kick that John Jones does. And I think John Jones will beat him on points. He'll just run around the ring like Gustafsson does and pick his shots. And Stipe is going to get frustrated. He's going to get tired. And Stipe and John Jones has good takedown defense. So it's like, what is Stipe? If Stipe can't hit him,
you're making me want to see that fight, that Stipe versus John Jones. You're hyping that shit up right now to me. I'm like, damn.
Hey, man. I'm taking John Jones, bro. Because if Stipe can't hit him clean, then like, what are you gonna do? Like, because John Jones is gonna beat you from all directions. And one thing about it that I've seen in fighting is that if you don't have the cardio, man, in them later rounds, man, it's not gonna be good.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, for sure.
And I've seen fighters quit because of their cardio. Yeah. Whether it's Derek Lewis versus Mark Hunt, I've seen Derek Lewis quit because of cardio.
They said that was his back, like.
Man, you saw him sit down in that octagon.
The cardio from eating the ribs and chicken, man.
Exactly.
Now you tell me that was your back?
Nah, bruh.
When I was watching that looked like cardio.
Cardio. And then Michael Johnson, he quit because of cardio.
When?
Against Justin Gaethje.
Was that cardio, or was that him getting smoked?
I think so. I think it was just because, remember, they were fighting at a
fucking egg scramble.
Well, you know, I think watching that fight, I think that Justin Gaethje brought the fight to him more than what Michael Johnson could take.
Oh yeah, so, he broke his ass down. I mean, Michael Johnson landed that shot, and if he would have, he could have ended the hype right there. But the fact that Justin Gaethje came back, you know, made it what it was. But I didn't. Whenever I think about that, I never even thought about Michael Johnson's cardio. But maybe I forgot about it because of how, you know, classic the fight became. But yeah, so I didn't.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Gaethje definitely outworked him, and then it's like, when you're fighting a guy with good cardio and your cardio can't match his, in them later rounds, man, McGregor, Mayweather, Gaethje, Michael Johnson, Derek Lewis,
that's a good McGregor, Mayweather. That's a good example right there.
Even the Diaz fight.
Yeah.
Even the Diaz fight.
Man, you talking about Diaz too, or Diaz?
Yeah.
Diaz too pissed me off, man.
We could say both.
Okay. Yeah.
Because, you know, cardio. Matter of fact, Diaz won. Yeah, Diaz won. The cardio had McGregor shooting for a takedown because he didn't want to get finished on the feet.
Yeah.
So, you know, I mean, you know, if you don't have good cardio, man, and even when Barbosa fought Tony Ferguson, and Tony Ferguson was walking him down, bringing the fight to him, Barbosa just kind of, you know, went for a little takedown or whatever, and they scrambled, and Ferguson put him in the
Yeah, no, that's a good example. Yeah, that's a good example. Because
and that's how
Tony Ferguson's a good example. That's not Barbosa's not the only person he's did that to. Because I remember Kevin Lee was saying to someone else, and like leading up to that fight, I was watching a lot of Tony Ferguson's fight on Fight Pass, and There was a guy
RDA.
that had, was it RDA? Yeah, who had a good first
Yeah.
round, and then Tony Ferguson
Yep.
started taking over from there.
Yep, and honestly, that's how Ferguson wins the majority of his fights is cardio.
Yep.
It's him walking you down, forcing you to, and the thing is about it is like during the fight, if somebody, even if I'm not throwing punches at you and I'm just walking you down, you have two things you're gonna do. It's either you're gonna retract and run from me, or you're gonna throw at me. Because once I'm walking you down, you're in a position to where you have to react to what I'm doing, and you're not gonna. If you run from me, you're not gonna do that. So you're gonna have to throw something at me. Same way Mayweather did with McGregor. You're not landing, but you have to throw something because I'm putting a paste on you.
Yeah.
So with Ferguson and a couple other fighters that do that, you know what I mean? That's just the way to victory. Because if someone's walking you down, you have to do something to combat that. Because imagine
I'm
imagine
thinking of the Gaethje Johnson fight. Yeah.
imagine being inside of a street fight and somebody's just walking you down and you're punching them and they're not having any effects. You're gonna want to get out of that fight.
Yeah, made me think of fantasy
Bro,
fights.
honestly, like I'm just imagining myself in a street fight right now, man. If a guy's walking me down and I'm hitting him and he's rushing off my shots and I'm giving him the best that I got, I'm gonna get out of here now because you know what I mean. If you're eating my shot and I'm getting fatigued from it, your shots are gonna hurt, and I need to get the hell up out of here. I need to put the track shoes on right now.
Yeah, they still got
So-
their energy. They're eating them.
Yeah. So, and like you said, man, Ferguson wins
Yeah.
pretty much all of his fights. So, you know what I mean? So,
Yep.
I forgot where we were going with that,
Well,
man.
we were talking
but-
about Justin Gaethje and Michael Johnson. You were saying, but yeah, before that, I kind of forgot where we were going too. But one thing we didn't talk about, I don't know, did you have to go? It sounded like kind of trying to close.
No.
it. Okay, I wanted to talk about the game bread. I mean, Joanna and Rose. I think that there's not really too much to talk about there. I mean, unless you got something. Do you think Rose has a bet that I'm giving her credit for? I just think Joanna's probably gonna win that one, kind of like DJ Ray Borg a little bit.
No. I don't think it'll be like DJ and Ray
Yeah, I don't
Borg.
think she's gonna pull off the Mighty Whiz bar, but
Hey, I think, watching Rose fight, I think that, I'm not, alright, I'm gonna go out on a limb here.
okay.
I think it's a 60-40. I think Joanna has 60% chance of winning Rose at 40.
And you're out on a limb.
Cause look, man, okay. I've never seen Rose get fatigued in any of her fights. Rose does have pretty good cardio. Joanna would have to stop her, well, she could win by decision.
Have you ever seen
but-
Joanna fatigue?
Oh no, hell no, no, I
Okay.
haven't. But I don't know. To me, it's like Rose has a more polished game than anybody else that she's fought.
I thought you were about to say
And-
then Joanna.
No, hell no. I think
Okay.
anywhere
Man,
anywhere to
she's,
fight
she's
Rose.
coming off of wins over Jessica Andrade, Claudia Gadelha, Karolina Kowalkiewicz.
Yeah, but Rose, I would say Rose is better than all of them.
Ooh, okay.
Because okay, Carolina did beat her. I'm not gonna take nothing from Carolina. Carolina did beat her by a split decision, but I think Rose has grown then because she's been working with Valentina Shevchenko.
Yeah.
So because watching that, because I didn't know who Carolina was when I was watching her fight Rose on Woodley and 201 Woodley and Lawler.
Oh yeah.
So I didn't know who Rose was. I mean, who Carolina was. But one thing I noticed was, because I was more Rose than I was Carolina, because I knew who Rose was.
Yeah.
And I was saying to myself, damn, Carolina kept going to the clinch all the time. Clinch. And she kept hitting her with them knees to the stomach. And I was like, you don't have anything else to defend against that? And I think working with Valentina, who is my favorite female MMA fighter.
Yeah, I think she. Even though I had Nunes beating her, I think Valentina's better pound for pound because I think she's gonna be a fucking probably a dominant champion at 125, and she had great success at 135. So I hear you there.
Yeah. So, and her working with Valentina, who has disciplines in many forms of fighting, whether it's K1, Muay Thai, she has many disciplines. She doesn't use them all, but she has many disciplines, and I think working with Valentina, who remember she fought Joanna in Muay Thai.
Yeah, 3 times.
So exactly, and then Valentina beat Joanna all the times they fought in the Muay Thai. So the fact that he is working with Rose, man, that's some insight there, man. That's some insight.
It is, but I wonder to what extent are they working together. I wonder if like she's doing her whole camp with Valentina, or if that was just like a couple weeks. But yeah, that is a good point. But I mean, do you think what do you think would happen if Valentina and Joanna fought at 125 in MMA? Now I know the history in Muay Thai, but what about MMA?
I would say that if they fought in MMA. Oh, that's a hard one, man. I know Valentina will have the size advantage on Joanna.
Yeah. I'm gonna go ahead and say I think Valentina might get her, man. I don't know. I might be crazy, but Valentina, she'd like you that size advantage. She'd beat her in Muay Thai. There's gonna be that confidence factor, the size advantage. I mean,
the only thing that Valentina needs to do to further herself, because she's only been in the UFC for maybe like a year or a half. And the only thing that she needs to do to further herself is be more aggressive. You can't sit back, man, because with that Nunes fight, toward the later rounds, the 4th and the 5th, she started to pick up her combos, her counter. It's like you cannot be that passive, because honestly, I wanted her to win the fight because I said she was my favorite female fighter, but honestly, watching that fight, I'm like, come on, Valentina, you have to push the pace, man, because she is known to not have good cardio. Just to put your cardio against her cardio. Whoever runs out first. You can't let her just throw her leg kicks on the outside and just be satisfied. You gotta push the pace on her. You have to, because she's not accustomed to fighting this many rounds, and she gets tired during the 3rd round of most of her fights. So you have to put your gas tank against hers, but Valentina just wasn't pushing the pace for whatever reason. I can't explain it, man. I can't explain it, but I wish she would have definitely pushed the pace on fight, because I think if she would have pushed the pace, come on, man, she would have frustrated Nunes because towards the end of the fight, Nunes was becoming more frustrated with the combos that Valentina was landing.
She was,
so,
and I mean, she was tired of the fight. I mean, she got to take down the 5th round, but she couldn't really do much on top because she was fucking tired.
Exactly, Brand, and then like I'm saying, if Valentina would have pushed that same kind of pace towards that she pushed in the first, I think she would have won. I think she would have won, man.
It's a possibility, but my favorite fight on this 217 card is Jorge Masvidal versus fucking Wonderboy Thompson, man. I cannot wait for that fight. Who do you got winning that fight?
Stephen Thompson.
Okay, did you? I think you might have been one of the people that said by decision.
Yeah. I just think that Jorge. All right, from what I've seen from Jorge Masvidal, is the fact that when he fights, he's very, very, very how can I say this? He doesn't push the axe in the city. Like, he's a counter puncher, but he can be more than what he shows.
Yeah. Because
when he beat Cowboy, I think the reason he beat Cowboy like that is because Cerrone, he's gonna go out there and fight you.
Yeah.
He doesn't care. He's gonna you're gonna have a fight. But when you're fighting a counter puncher like Stephen Thompson, and the fact that, and then to add on to that, Damian Maia, when he fought Damian Maia, he wasn't pushing the pace or striking at Damian Maia the way he should have been, in my opinion. Because when somebody takes you down the way Maia does, he's gonna shoot on you or he's gonna try to body lock you. And you should have been working abs in because your hands are better than his. Like, Jack.
Oh shit! Let me stop you. Are you there? Hello? The sound's still going, but I don't hear you.
Hear you?
Okay, I hear you now. You there?
Yeah, and I'm here.
Okay, all right, yeah, we're good.
Yeah, man. But but during that fight, man, I thought he could have been more aggressive in that fight and what he showed. And
I
he
think
just has.
versus Damian Maya, like I mean, a lot of people said that about Tyrone. Like people, think people are going to be more aggressive against Damian Maya because they have the advantage with striking. But I think people are so cautious of if they push the pace against Damian Maya, they come forward. They think he's going to get that takedown, and I think everyone wants to avoid Damian Maya's takedown, so nobody comes forward. I think Masvidal, man. Because like you said, I don't think he has to be a counter striker. I think he's got the potential. He's got the skills to come forward if he needs to. I think he's gonna do that versus fucking Wonderboy. I don't know. I don't even know if that's the best game plan, but I think he's gonna he has the potential to even outstrike. Kind of like Valentina Shevchenko did Holly Holm. I think Masvidal might be able to come in and do something like that versus Wonderboy. And maybe that's just because he's one of my favorite fighters. So I don't know, but I think that's what I'm hoping for.
Yeah, man, he's definitely gonna have to incorporate some takedowns in there to beat Wonderboy. But on the feet, I just think Wonderboy's gonna throw, because Wonderboy's hands are pretty good too.
Yeah.
So, and then he has the kicks that come behind it. So, and then I haven't seen Masvidal throw too many head kicks, if ever throw the head kick. So he can't just come in there one dimensional. Like you said, when Valentina fought Holly, she was doing takedowns. She was clinching. I think
Masvidal can score a couple takedowns. I think he's.
Oh yeah, I hope he does. I hope he does, man. I hope he doesn't get in there trying to make it a kickboxing versus boxing kind of fight, man. Mm-hmm. It's an MMA fight, man. If you take Wonderboy down, I promise you he won't get up. Literally shows you that he will not. He doesn't have.
Now, Masvidal is a smaller welterweight.
True.
And Wonderboy, I'm sure, has been training with Weidman. A little bit, at least.
Yeah, but I couldn't tell during UFC 205.
Dude, Tyron, he's a lot bigger than Masvidal. But
but
probably a little bit better of a wrestler. I mean, if not a lot of bit, at least offensive.
Yeah. But you can kind of tell who has it and who doesn't, man, because he didn't show any signs of knowing what he was doing once he was on his back.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it's okay to wrestle with Weidman, but Weidman's not going to strike you from the top.
Yeah.
So, it's a totally different kind of thing. I hope Masvidal wins it, man, but I just don't see him, man. I just think that Wonderboy has too many tools on the feet.
Yeah, I know. Masvidal, I think, is the underdog in this fight, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, I mean, hey, it is what it is. He definitely might lose it. Shit, he is the underdog. So, man. So I mean, there's Johnny Hendricks and Paulo on that fight. Do you know much about Paulo Barachinha? I mean, I'm picking him to win the fight, but that's just more because of Johnny Hendricks' plight, more so than Paulo. But
and I don't too much about neither. I know Johnny Hendricks keep missing weight. He can never make weight. Yeah. That's all I pretty much know about. I know that he is, one of the older fighters that have now fell victim to USADA being here.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. Like,
that's
honestly,
that's kind of why I'm going with the other guy. Like, more so than him. Just it's more because of his plight rather than knowing as much about the other guy. Because the other guy hasn't fought anybody on paper as good as Johnny Hendricks. But Johnny Hendricks, he's missing weight. He's 1-4 or so in his last 5 fights or something, and he's missed weight in 3 of them. So, yeah.
I definitely go the other guy, because I don't really know.
Before we get out of here, one thing have you fucking did any research on Darren Till? What do you think about Cowboy versus Darren Till? I'm pretty hyped about that fight. That's coming up next week.
Nah, man. I know you was putting stock into Darren Till, but I really don't know who that is. I was listening to a podcast.
He's dope.
Yeah, man. I was listening to, I think, which podcast was it? I listened to Michael Bisbee and Chael. I think it was Chael's son in part, I believe. And he was saying that whoever Arnold Cerrone's management team is, they're fucking him over because.
Oh wow! I didn't hear that.
Yeah, it was either Michael Bisbee or Chael Sonnen.
Yeah.
But he was like, And Michael Bisping has one of the best podcasts about it. He's funny as hell, man.
Yeah, I just started listening
But
to that one.
yeah, man. But one of them was saying that he's taking all these risk fights to be one of the top names in the UFC, and you're fighting guys like
Masvidal, Darren
Masvidal, Mike Brown,
yeah.
Fucking Rick Story, and all those scrubs guys, man. Like, you're fighting bottom of the guys you're fighting are fighting you because they want to make a name off of your popularity. You're not supposed to be fighting guys that's ranked 8, 9, 10, 7. You're supposed to be fighting the Laws of the world, the Stephen Thompsons of the world, you're supposed to be getting way bigger fights than what you're getting. Whoever else is in the 170 division. Even Damian Maia, we get that fight. Colby Covington is fighting Damian. Cowboy should be fighting Damian Maia.
Oh yeah.
And it's like,
they were talking about like Cowboy versus Wonder Boy. I mean, that just has a ring to it already.
exactly, man. But you're fighting guys like Darren Till. I take your word for it that he's really good. But you're fighting them on UFC Fight Pass. Come on,
And
bro.
it's in Poland.
I know you. Yeah, I know you love to fight. You know what I mean, and that's just something that you love to do. But you're fighting guys that's not even advised on. Like, you're not gonna gain. Like the dude was saying that did the podcast. You're not gonna gain anything from beating Darren Till on UFC Fight Pass in Poland. You're not gonna gain anything from that shit. Okay. If anything, you lose, Darren Till he's gonna gain more from that shit. Just like how
I don't know how much longer. I mean, I know Cowboy likes to fight, but I don't know how much longer he's gonna be fighting. I don't know. In that last fight, whenever Robbie Lawler's corner was screaming out, "Boy, ain't got no liver." I mean, people are gonna hear that. Darren Till, precision striker. People are gonna start targeting Donald Cerrone's injuries. He's fucking. I just seen he was like on a boat catching rattlesnakes. Like, I mean, man, I think he might be ready to do other stuff. I don't even know. Darren Till, I think he's part of the. So, but yeah, I hear you though.
Yeah, man, he can't be but he can't be taking these kind of fights, man. He can't be having Colby Covington and Masvidal getting bigger fights right now. That you can't, man. You can't have Masvidal fighting in New York and Damian Maia and Colby Covington are going to be a co-main event coming up, and you're fighting some guy in UFC Fight Pass. And honestly, the MMA world don't even know who he is. Until he beats you, then they're gonna know who he is. So, like, where you get, if you beat Darren Till, it'll be no different than when you beat Mike Brown or Rick Story. It'll be no different than any of those guys. So it's like, you're not gaining anything. Like, come on, man. I don't know how much they're paying you, bro, but taking these fights that you're taking, I wouldn't take these fights for Cowboy, man. You got to be ranked top. I got to be on my way to a title, man. Main event. Fox cards and things like that, man. I'm not fighting on UFC Fight Pass. Like,
yeah,
nah, man. But to wrap it up, man, I appreciate the channel, bro. I've seen, but when a couple of dudes say that you keep them going at work or whatever, and and that you're a good pastime when you post your videos, stuff like that, and just to give you a shout out, man. I've seen you take something that somebody else started and take it further than they have taken it, man. Shout out, man. Even on your last McGregor video when you had the videos going in the back, man. Hey, man, you're doing a hell of a job with the channel, bro.
Much appreciated.
Yeah, man. You just goes to show you, bro, that somebody can start some shit, the next motherfucker can take further than them, bro. So,
yeah.
Man, that's a good look, bro. You took that shit way further than his ass did, bro. So I appreciate it, bro.
All right, well, thanks, man. Thanks for the call, and it is what it is, man. I'm going to split this stuff together and try and get it up tonight, so, let us know what you think in the comments, and once again, this is Barry Walters, Day One Hitter on deck. We're out, shit.
Bye, Felicia.